Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another video. We're back with a themed reading vlog, and I thought of this idea because I was going through all the books on my shelves of books I've rated 4.5 to kind of like 5 stars and remembering loving but don't really remember why. So this themed reading vlog is called Are They As Good As I Remember? Rereading Books I've Loved Before. A kind of little bit of a play on All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, that kind of book title, all the books I've loved before. So I don't know if this will be a series, but I think it'd be quite cool to look back on. But I'm going to read 3 books that I rated a variety of 4 to 4.5 to 5 stars in this vlog to see if they still live up to what I had in my head. Now, this could be a really bad idea because they could be worse, and therefore I've kind of lost love for books in the past by doing this. But other times I've read books, gave them 3 stars, reread them a couple of years later and given them 5 stars. So I have high hopes for this vlog that they will stay favourites or they'll increase their ratings. The books I'm going to be reading in this vlog are as follows. I'm going to start with Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein. This is a gymnastics romance. Originally, when I read it in 2020, I gave it a 5 stars. The next book I actually read in the same reading vlog as Head Over Heels. So if you want to actually go check out me reading these books for the first time, I'll link that vlog down below if you're interested in watching it. The next book I'm going to read for this vlog, which was a 4 star, is Pretending by Holly Bourne, and I absolutely adored this book last time. And I just want to go into Holly Bourne's adult fiction with a fresh pair of eyes. Now I've read a lot more and kind of know a lot more about my reading taste. I'm really interested to see what I think of this. This is a book that kind of centers around a woman recovering from sexual abuse and kind of finding her life partner after this traumatic event has happened and not having anyone close to her, so obviously trigger warnings for sexual assault in this book. And the last book I read was in a readathon where I just had to speed through this book because I was on a time crunch, and I said to myself then, and I'm finally holding my promise to myself, that I would reread this book because I know that when I reread it and give the time and space it needs, it'll probably be a 5 stars. And I read that book in my first round of Magic Hopathon, and that is This Close to Okay by Leesa Smith. Another one that deals with sensitive topics. This book basically follows our 2 main characters, Emmett and Tally, who cross paths when Emmett is on the side of a bridge about to commit suicide. Tally pulls him back and takes her back to her house, and they form this really interesting bond. I think Tally is a therapist, which she didn't divulge, and they create this really incredible bond. And I remember absolutely loving this book and physically saying in the vlog, I know that if I give this book more time and more space, I'll give it 5 stars. So here's testing that theory out in this vlog. So I'm going to start with something easy, something light. These 2 are very heavy topic based books, so I'm going to start with a gymnastics romance, although saying that, this book also does deal with sexual assault because it kind of is a fictional version of the Nassau trials that happened in American gymnastics in like 2018-19. It's still a tough read, but more of a cute, fluffy romance, if you can think of it that way. So I'm going to start with this one and I'll keep you posted. But yeah, welcome back to a themed reading vlog.
On page 1, there's Disney references. The 30-something-year-old woman next to me, whose iPhone lock screen is a selfie of her in Minnie Mouse ears kissing a man wearing Mickey ones at Disneyland. No wonder I gave it 5 stars.
Oh my god, I haven't updated this vlog in what feels like forever. It is now the following Monday. I think the last time I updated this vlog was Tuesday or even possibly Monday evening. And this last week has been absolutely chaotic for me. I just haven't had the time to read, which has meant that this reading vlog has kind of been put on a back burner, but I'm hoping this coming week is a lot more chill for me. I'll be able to smash out a lot more reading. But just as a reading update, I'm still in the middle of Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein and absolutely loving it. It's still going to be a favourite. I can just see it. The writing is so easy to read. It's so like easy to pick up, put down, which has kind of been ideal for me this last week. And I just love the characters. I just love the setting. Because this book is based in a gymnastics environment, it kind of takes me back to when I was a gymnast, although not for very long. I just love that part of my life and I do kind of miss it, and I'd love to get back into adult gymnastics, but there just aren't many clubs around that support adult gymnastics, which is really sad to see. But this basically follows our main character, who used to be an Olympic gymnast, or used to almost be an Olympic gymnast. She had to back out of the Olympics because of an injury, and she's kind of like lost her life from there. But when she gets called back to coach a rising Olympian on floor, because that was her like main event, she kind of starts to enjoy her life again and get back on track and find passion for what she used to absolutely love. And then because of that, she also meets a fellow coach who's coaching the same kind of like rising Olympian, and the romance ensues from there. And it's just looking like the perfect sort of book if you're looking for a romance and also love gymnastics. I do think this is kind of like one of the best gymnast romance books around. I don't think I've read any, but I want to say that this one is the best one. I absolutely love it. It's so easy to read. The characters are like just so heartwarming, and it's just like kind of like just an easy, fun book. Don't have to think too much about it, and it's just kind of like what I needed right now and what I needed back then as well. And it's just kind of like one of those books that kind of really bring me comfort because of the connection I have to it. Not that I was ever a rising Olympian, but when they talk about some of the gymnastics moves, I'm very much kind of like in the gymnastics community. I love watching it, so I kind of know all the moves that they're talking about. So for me, it's just kind of like one of those like really kind of comforting books, and I'm really enjoying it, and I guarantee it'll be a 5 stars. I'm 100-ish pages into it, so it's taken me a while to get into it, but that's purely because last week was so chaotic. Every evening was jam-packed, every morning was so busy, every work day was hectic. It just one of those times that it was just really busy, so I didn't have the chance to read as much as I wanted. But I'm hoping to get back on track this week, and then I'll hopefully come in with a reading update sooner than a week's time because I need to get this video filmed and all the books read for it. And I'm excited to read the other 2 books in this vlog series, so I'm kind of hoping I can get done with this book ASAP, but loving it so far, and I'm sure it's going to be another 5 stars. So yes to the first book in this vlog. Oh my god, my hair. Happy Friday, guys. I'm in with an update because I finished Head Over Heels by Orenstein. I've actually already filmed this clip once, but I rambled on for way too long, so I'm going to start again. Which means I've already put it away. But yes, this book is still just as loved by myself as it was the first time around I read it. I gave it a 5 stars again. I can't fault this book. This book to me is a massive warm hug. This book, I love this book so much. This book, if you didn't know, and I haven't really explained fully, this basically follows our main character Avery, who has just travelled back home to her original hometown after breaking up with her boyfriend in LA. So she's lived out in LA, she has to come back to her hometown. But before she left her hometown, she was an Olympic hopeful in gymnastics. But during the Olympic trials, she unfortunately injured herself, and therefore she had to drop out of the Olympics, and she therefore never competed in the Olympics, even though that was kind of like her life goal. It was what she was working towards in her entire life. So she kind of felt a bit lost, so she moved to LA, she got a boyfriend, and just kind of like went through life from there, never really doing anything adventurous or exciting. She just kind of like felt a bit depressed and a bit lonely because as an elite athlete, you have this sole focus and sole goal for your entire life. So when that kind of gets taken away from you and you no longer do it, it is kind of hard to find a way out. So she's really struggling, and then her boyfriend breaks up with her. So her only option, because she hasn't really had any ambition since then, is to move back to her hometown and live with her parents and kind of try and get back on her feet from there. And then she gets a random call from a gymnast that she used to know, who is now coaching at her old gymnastics club. And he asks her to come back and coach at the gymnastics club that she used to train at. And a romance ensues from there with those 2 characters. But what I love most about this book is the fact that she has such character growth in this book, from really struggling and then kind of coming to who she is, and where she is at the end of the book was incredible. I love character growth. You guys know me by now, which is why I love this book so much. But then second, so 1, yes, amazing character growth from Avery. 2 is her relationship with Hallie. Hallie is a rising Olympic gymnast, and Avery becomes her floor routine coach, just her floor routine coach, because that's what Avery used to be really, really good at and excel at. That was her like best apparatus. She gets hired as Hallie's coach to just train her on floor, and they create this incredible bond. And the way that Avery kind of like takes Hallie under her wing and kind of lives her dream through her, but never taking away Hallie's spotlight. Chef's kiss. So that's number 2. And then number 3, the third best thing about it, is the romance between Avery and Ryan. But those 3 things, incredible. But what this book focuses on is elite gymnastics, yes, and the struggles with that, the mental health and the physical health downsides that come with being in elite gymnastics. This book does have a fictionalized version of the NASA trials that happened in American gymnastics a couple of years ago, so trigger warnings for sexual assault in that stance. It doesn't touch upon it loads, but it is kind of like a throughout the story sort of plot, even though it's not like the main focus. It kind of is there in the background constantly. Hallie goes to see the doctor that gets accused of sexual assaulting loads of other gymnasts, so therefore she's like constantly on her phone refreshing, seeing if any other gymnasts come forward. So there's this sort of like underlining plot of a sexual assault trial, but it's not like the main focus. And I do think what makes this book is the relationship between Avery and Hallie, and how not only does Avery evolve within herself, and being able to evolve within herself, she's able to support Hallie in a really positive way, whilst Hallie is dealing with one of the most stressful points of her life. I could ramble about this book for ages. I already rambled about it for 5 minutes. It's once again 5 stars, and I feel sad that I've had this channel for almost 3 years now, coming up to my 3rd year anniversary. And I don't talk about this book enough. I rave about so many other of my favourites, but I keep forgetting about this book, and I'm so glad this vlog made me reread it, because it's definitely had a stick landing in confirming its place as one of my favourite books. So yeah, love this book. Then yesterday, because I finished this on Wednesday, yesterday I did start my next book for this vlog, which is This Close to Okay by Leesa Smith. This is once again another kind of heavy topic book. This follows suicide in this book, because it follows our main 2 characters, Tally and Emmett. And the first chapter follows Tally as she pulls Emmett away from the bridge as he's about to commit suicide. What Emmett doesn't know is Tally is a therapist, and so she's really trying to understand who he is, where he's come from, and why he had this rash decision to step up onto a bridge. And Emmett doesn't know that, and Tally keeps that information to herself. And he ends up going back to Tally's house. You get dual perspective in this book, so you get Emmett's backstory as well as Tally's backstory. I can't remember the nitty-gritty bits about this book, but I remember absolutely loving it and loving the character relationships in this book. So I'm really, really hoping for another win. I originally gave this book a 4.5 stars, and I said, back when I first read it, if I gave it more time and space, it would be a 5 stars. So I'm really hoping that is the case. It is now Friday evening. I've finished work for the day, so I'm hoping that I can just spend the weekend now reading this book. It's not too long. It's just over 100 pages. I wish. It's just over 300 pages, so I'm hoping I can smash it out this week, read my last and final book next week, and then get this vlog up for you guys. But I have high hopes for this book. I just hope I haven't given it too high of an expectation on myself, because obviously I have read this book before, so I know how much I love it, but I'm just hoping that it's as good as I remember, which is the whole point of this vlog. 1 win so far. Let's hope for a second.
Happy Tuesday the 16th of May. I haven't updated this vlog in ages, and I just sat down to continue reading This Close to Okay because I still haven't finished it. Just to kind of give you an update, because I feel like I am doing awfully with this vlog. But sadly, I'm not loving this book as much as I did the first time around, and I knew there was a possibility of that happening in this vlog, because sometimes you just read books at the right moment and therefore you give them a higher rating, and then if you come back to them, they're not the same. And I'm having that with this book. I'm still enjoying it, but it's taken me so long to read. I'm a little bit bored. I'm still enjoying it, but there's a lot of description I don't remember. I remember it being quite dialogue heavy, but this time it seems to be a lot of description I just don't care about, and I'm kind of skimming over. But I completely forgot about the plot twist, and now I'm intrigued. So my intrigue levels jumped back up, but I'm 200 pages into a just over 300 page book, and I'm only kind of like semi-intrigued. I gave it a 4 star originally. I thought it was a 4.5. It's a 4. And I don't know if it's going to go down. I'm kind of just going to see where I feel at the end of the book and go from there. But I'm sad I'm not loving it as much. I'm really hoping it improves, and that kind of like the plot twist turns into something more, and that kind of, I remember the ending more than kind of like the build up to it, which is why I rated it 4 star. I'm kind of hoping that's the case, because otherwise I'm reading this book for the sake of it, and it's just a bit sad because I had such like a good home run the first time round with Head Over Heels, and this one isn't doing the same thing to me. And I'm also like this is a heavy book, and then the next book I need to read is also really heavy, because Pretending is all about kind of this woman kind of becoming back to herself and relearning how to love herself by herself after like dealing with sexual assault. So I don't know if I'm ready to read that book. I don't know, but I don't want to like just have this vlog as 2 books. I feel like 3, for some reason 3 books in a reading vlog is like the norm, and if I just have 2 it might not be as good. I don't know, I'm struggling. I might put it on Instagram and be like, is 2 books fine for a vlog, or do I have to read 3? Because I'm really sure I'm vibing with reading Pretending right after this, and just kind of like sacrificing what I remember enjoying about it just for a reading vlog, if that makes sense. So I feel like I shouldn't read it and hinder my love for that book just for the sake of rereading it to make sure I still love it, because it could be counterproductive in the fact that I push myself to read it just for the sake of this vlog, and then therefore not enjoy it as much and have a memory of not enjoying it as much rather than really enjoying it, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to try and finish this book tonight. It's 7 o'clock. I have 100 pages left. It could be possible. I don't know if it will be, but then if I only have 2 books left to read, if I only have this book left to read for the vlog, it doesn't matter if it takes me a little bit longer to read. That's the update. I'll keep reading, and I might put this on Instagram, that question, and kind of go from there. But happy Tuesday. Hopefully I'll be back in with an update soon, but who the hell knows at this point. I finished the book. The ending does it. The ending is so good. Once the kind of plot gets revealed and all the things start to kind of like add up, the beginning makes sense, but it's a lot slower than I remember it being, which is why I'm sad to the fact that I thought it was going to be a 5 stars last time I read it, and obviously now I've reread it, it's not a 5 stars, it's still a 4. I'm still really enjoyed the book. I love the ending. I love the characters. I just feel so heartwarmed by the ending. Like, I'm so happy everything turned out the way it did. So it's going to stay at a 4 stars, which is good, because so far 2 for 2. A 5 star stayed at 5 star, and a 4 star stayed at 4 star. But it was a lot slower than I remember it being. So unfortunately, my prediction of it being a higher rating was incorrect, but I did enjoy it. Like, I can't not enjoy that book. It does hit upon some really difficult topics, and it's a very difficult book to read in terms of like the whole book follows a character who's about to commit suicide, and the other main character prevents him from doing so. But you spend a week confined with just those 2 characters on how they're healing, and how he constantly thinks about not wanting to live and all the struggles, and then you get to the point where the big plot twist happens and the topics only get darker and deeper. If you're interested in reading this book, I highly recommend checking out trigger warnings, because if I mention them then I'll spoil the ending, which I don't want to do. But obviously, if you're interested in reading this book, then you need to know what the trigger warnings are at the end of the book. Death is a massive one, grief, there's just a lot in there. So I highly recommend checking out the trigger warnings if you're interested in reading this book. But I do recommend it for the people who want a character growth book and a very good character exploration book, because you really do get to know the ins and outs of just these 2 characters, and I do really enjoy it. So it's going to stay as a 4 stars. I'm going to go to bed now, but yeah, I'm happy I've done another book. I kind of had a little bit of wobble earlier. I'm going to sleep on it, and I'm going to decide if I'm going to start my next book or not. I don't know. I did put it to Instagram, and everyone was very kind. Everyone said it's fine, you can just read 2 books. But I feel like I need to complete the vlog that I set out to create. So I'm going to see how I feel in the morning, and if I can deal with another heavy topic book. And if so, then I'll talk about the next book tomorrow when I start it. But yeah, 2 for 2, another 5 stars, or a reread that stayed at 5 stars, and another book that stayed 4 stars. So far, so good. The books I'm rereading are as good as I remember them being, which is the whole point of this vlog. So win-win. Happy Thursday. I started Pretending yesterday. I did go ahead and start it because I felt like I wanted to read it. And it's feeling like a 5 stars. I'm only 50-ish pages in, but loving the writing style. Loving the main character. I love how self-aware she is. Like, she knows she has issues, but she's like making fun of herself in a really like good way. I love the writing style, love the character. Just really enjoying it so far. Can't put it down. I just want to keep reading, which I haven't had that feeling since I read A Heart So Fierce and Broken. So exciting times. I'm going to try and read as much as I can today and hopefully get this vlog up to you ASAP. But it's meant to go up Sunday. It's now Thursday. Will I finish a 400-page book in the next 3 days? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, obsessed. 60 pages in, and I have to go to work. I have to drive to go to work, and I just want to keep reading this.
It is now Friday the 19th of May. This vlog is still going. I've definitely had a slower reading pace this month in May, which is fine. I didn't expect to be just spending the entire month rereading books, but that seems to be what's happening, but that's fine. Obviously, I am still in the middle of Pretending by Holly Bourne. I'm now 120-ish pages into it, 136 pages into it, still loving it. If anything, this could be the book that bumps itself up in rating, because I originally gave it 4 stars. It could be a 5. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I am really, really enjoying it. So we'll see how we go. Not too much to update in terms of like what I haven't already said, but I will give you the synopsis of the book. This book basically follows our main character. I want to say her name's Avery because I remember reading Head Over Heels and Pretending before in one reading vlog, and both of them having the same main character name. I'm pretty sure her name's Avery. However, she doesn't really have much luck in her dating life. She has unfortunately been sexually assaulted by her ex-boyfriend, which obviously, as it would, has really triggered her for future relationships, as she has a lot of trust issues and she can't perform certain sexual acts without getting triggered, which is completely understandable. But this whole narrative of this book is that Avery is officially over men. She doesn't have to deal with them anymore. She thinks they're all horrible, although she keeps pushing herself to keep going on dates because she feels like that's what society would want her to do. So you're following this narrative of someone who just has completely given up on men, but for society's sake keeps trying. And the reason it's called Pretending is because finally she's had enough. She's gone on so many dates, none of them have worked out. Her body clock is ticking, and she's like, right, I'm done with men. However, she still goes on dating apps because she creates a persona for herself called Gretel, and she pretends to be this alter ego character who is like this perfect person who everyone wants, who all the men want. She can't do any wrong. So Avery starts pretending to be Gretel on dating apps and starts getting dates as Gretel. And you follow Avery kind of navigating this new world as she basically catfishes men into this kind of like higher standard of herself that she doesn't believe she has, but Gretel has. So you're kind of following that narrative, and I'm really enjoying the kind of feminist take on this book and how men do feel like they have the upper hand and treat women sometimes. Reading this makes me really, 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 really appreciate Mark, because I know there's some shitty stuff out there, and he is just a gem. Like, I can't fault him. He's amazing. So yeah, it's kind of making me, back then, I was dating Mark back then, but not to the extent of a relationship we're at now, which obviously engaged, house, etc. So it does really make me appreciate what I have, which is a really interesting kind of outlook to have, different perspective on when I first read it. So I think that's why I'm maybe enjoying it more, because I really do empathize along with Avery. I've had some triggering relationships in the past, so I can relate to her in that way. But I kind of feel sympathy for her because I know that you can find the right person for you, and there is a right person out there for you, because I found it. So I'm really hoping Avery can find it too and find it in herself. So I'm excited to read the rest of the book and kind of see Avery's character's growth as she kind of goes on this journey of self-discovery, and kind of uses Greta, her persona, to try and get out of the sticky situations and the difficult situations that she's put herself in. So I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully I will come in with an update soon. I don't think this vlog will be out Sunday. I'm hoping for Tuesday now, just because I don't want to rush reading this book just for the sake of getting a vlog out, because I am really enjoying it and I want to take my time reading it. So that's the update. I hope you're all well, and I'll speak to you hopefully soon. Hi guys, happy Monday. I have finally finished Pretending by Holly Bourne. Every book in this vlog has taken me 6 days to read, and I don't actually understand how or why. They weren't big books. This was the biggest book, but only just over 400 pages. I don't actually understand why they took me so long to read, because none of them were unenjoyable. I Don't know whether now this vlog has been completely pointless because every single book is staying the same rating. This book is also going to stay at 4 stars. I guess kind of this close to okay, I thought was a 4.5 but wasn't, it was a 4 and then I rated it 4 anyway. So I kind of had in my head with that book a higher expectation than it was, so semi kind of a trial but not really. But basically this whole vlog is kind of pointless because every single book I read, or reread should I say, has stayed the same rating, which I guess is a good thing. So not kind of completely pointless, but this experiment was to see if I remember books being as good as they actually are, reading them when my reading taste has kind of developed a little bit more, having read them a couple of years ago for the first time and then coming to revisit them. And I'm happy to say that all the books are just as good as I remember. Maybe a little bit slow in places, but overall the reading experiences were just the same, which is a good thing. So now I know when I recommend books that I haven't read in a while and that I read a couple of years ago and rated high stars, I know that I can trust myself in recommending them to you because they stayed the same. So on to Pretending. I did finish it today on my lunch break. I'm just sat down with a cup of tea and this book to finish it. And it's still a 4 stars. The beginning was a lot stronger than the middle and the ending kind of picked up again. I do think this book is about 50 pages, 70 pages, a bit too long. It kind of gets a little bit stale in the middle, and I do kind of like, it is quite repetitive in the messages it comes across, and I know what Holly Bourne is trying to do in terms of the message she is trying to get across, but sometimes it's a little bit too repetitive and you're like, yes, I know this. This bit basically follows our main character, April. I thought it was Avery, it isn't, it's April. Who has unfortunately been sexually abused by her ex-boyfriend, and she thinks there's something wrong with her rather than there an issue being with her ex-boyfriend, and she always thinks it's her fault. But she's trying to get back on the scene, she's trying to get back into relationships and back in the dating world, and nothing ever goes to plan because she feels like she's this really kind of undone woman. She's not this perfect person that everyone wants to date, so she creates this persona called Gretel, who has her life together. She's the perfect person for every man out there, and she starts to catfish men as her persona Gretel. But then she starts to fall for the person that she starts to date as Gretel, and she kind of starts to cross over the two lives of April and Gretel, and kind of like you go from there in terms of like her trying to get herself back on track and really trying to like love herself again after her sexual trauma, but also trying to come to terms with actually, can she trust men, or is every man exactly the same? And there's a really good exploration in the aftermath of sexual assault. I did learn a lot from this book. Luckily for me, I'm not own voices. I haven't had a traumatic sexual experience like April goes through in this story. And obviously this is very triggering for people who have gone through what April's gone through, so I would check out the trigger warnings before. But sexual assault is the main plot across this entire book. There's not a page that doesn't kind of mention it or feature it, or she flashes back to it. So if there's something you can't deal with, stay away from this book completely. But if you can deal with this book, I think it's a really eye-opening book to read. Just if you haven't experienced this before, to kind of get an understanding about where people are coming from who have suffered with this. And I do think Holly Bourne writes it in a really good way. Obviously, I'm not in voices like I just said, but me personally, I did really enjoy this book for what I learn and kind of having a different point of view from what I kind of experienced the world as. And like I said in my other vlog clip, it does make me appreciate Mark so much more. And yeah, I did really enjoy this book, but it's staying at the same rating. So overall in this vlog that has taken me 22 days to make, I feel like now, as I was filming this video, I'm like, I don't think I can do a themed reading vlogs. I think I just have to do weekly vlogs and read certain books in those vlogs, because otherwise I just give myself free rein to read the books across a long period of time, and it takes me almost a month to just film one reading vlog, and I can't do that because I've only read 3 books this month, all being for a vlog, and I just want to have more content and more kind of like reading experiences to share with you guys. And doing themed reading vlogs that take almost a month to make isn't worth my time personally. Not worth my time, but just kind of like it takes a lot of mental capacity, and I feel like weekly reading vlogs are more successful. And if I just theme those weekly reading vlogs to maybe reading 2 books with a theme, that would better suit my channel and kind of like the direction that I want to focus on. But I hope you enjoyed this vlog nevertheless. I read Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein in this vlog, and I rated it at 5 stars as per the 5 stars I originally gave it, so tick. And then I read This Close to Okay by Leesa Smith, which I gave a 4 stars. thinking I gave it a 4.5, but I didn't. I gave it 4 stars last time, so it's staying the same rating. And then I finished off with Pretending, which I've just discussed, and it's staying once again at 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. 5 stars at the beginning, it slowed down in the middle, and it got better near the end. So for me, it's a 4 stars rather than a 5, because right at the beginning, I did really think it was going to be a 5 stars, and this was going to be the book that kind of like changed its rating. But alas, the middle bit kind of got a little bit more of a slog to get through. And it felt a bit more repetitive, which is why it's staying at 4 stars and not upping to a 5. So that's the vlog. I really, really hope you enjoyed it. Do you reread your favourite books often? Do they stay the same rating? What do you do? Let me know in the comments down below, because I do love rereading books, and I love rereading books when I end up having the same ratings and same feelings before, because it just puts faith in myself as a reviewer. But sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to navigate. So let me know what you prefer in the comments down below, whether you just love rereading and that's all you kind of do, or whether you barely reread because you're scared the book's going to have changed since you last read it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a massive thumbs up and subscribe down below to see future content from me. I do anything from themed reading vlogs, weekly reading vlogs, monthly TBRs, monthly wrap-ups, and all the fun bookish content your heart could desire. So I have it all on this channel, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future content. Without further ado, I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys. Cheers.